afternoon and welcome to Listen at Lunch. So this is 20 minutes that is just about you. So you can have that time out, whether it's to eat your lunch at work or if you're working from home or you're travelling in the car. This is 20 minutes that's just about you. So you can listen to some really cool, some knowledgeable people that are qualified in certain areas. So today the topic is SADs and how to beat the winter blues, which I know all about those. I think we have somebody who is a bit more knowledgeable than me today, and that's Steve Lenagh, who was a professional footballer, was a policeman and now coaches people. So I'm hoping that Steve's going to fill us with so much wisdom that I'm going to wake up feeling super jolly in the morning and not like, oh my goodness,
I'm
it's
not
so
a magician.
dark.
I'm not a magician.
It's so
yeah.
dark and timing. So Steve, do you want to tell us firstly what SADS is, because is it even a thing?
It is, and there's not as much research around it as what you might think, but it's most definitely a thing, and it stands for seasonal affective disorder. So what I want to make clear is you might have some people that don't suffer with any mental health issues or anything throughout the year, then kind of winter hits and they see a change in the behaviour. And common symptoms are, whether we like it or not, because what I want to get across today is the importance of accepting things the way they are and managing them, because that's really important. Sometimes we fight words like depression's a dirty word or like low mood's a dirty word, and I want to try and get rid of that. It's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to struggle, and at this time of year a hell of a lot of people do. So there's anything between 2 and 3 million, that's at the last count, that do suffer from this. So that's a lot in this country when you think UK wide. That's a lot of people, and that's only the ones we know about.
And is that only the people that are diagnosed, so they actually go to a doctor and say it?
No, not necessarily. Again, how do we know anything? And it's you know, you could stick your finger in their hair and you could double that, triple that, or it's just giving us like a ballpark figure. The common symptoms are very similar to depression. A little withdrawal, low mood. We spoke before we started the camera, overeating, wanting to be comfortable, withdrawing from social situations, and all these types of things. That's essentially what SADS is. It is something that comes along at this time of year, which kind of makes us go into our shell. And I liken it a hell of a lot to, you know, I don't want to get all woo-woo and stuff when we talk about animals. We are animals.
Yeah, we are.
We do want to withdraw, and a lot of it's linked to sunlight. So without answering too many questions and getting ahead of myself, SADS is essentially where we see a change in our mood. We see a change in our happiness, our own well-being, and we might kind of want to withdraw and go away. So a good thing to think about is, if you don't suffer from it, do you notice any behaviours in other people that you can kind of see them go, oh, I've not heard from them for a bit. We need to treat it like it is a little bit of a depression. The difference with this is it will go. 9 times out of 10 it will disappear on its own.
So I suppose if you say that it's to do with sunlight,
Yeah.
and when we talk about depression, it normally comes around through a chemical imbalance of some sort. So is it a chemical? Is it like vitamin D?
It's funny, yeah. It's a good question, really good question. Well, firstly, in terms of depression in general, without getting off topic, there is chemical imbalances, but essentially a lot of the time it's around life events and things that might get you down. This, according to research, I don't think anything's been 100% proved, is to sunlight, because if you think about it, there's serotonin and melatonin. So if you were struggling to sleep, some people would suggest having a tablet of melatonin to help you sleep.
Is that what? Okay.
So melatonin is a chemical that helps you sleep. Now that's naturally kind of provoked and enhanced with the darkness. Your body clock has a tendency to work towards what light is. It's dark, you associate, do I go to bed?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's that type. So if you start to think of it like that, then when the sunlight's out, serotonin levels come up. You're more likely to want to go to the gym.
100%.
I am one of them that's like, get me in that beer garden. As soon as it's above 3 degrees, it's like t-shirt. So if you think of it like that, your serotonin levels and your melatonin levels, I don't want to get too, you know, chemically enhanced on you, because that's about the sum of my knowledge. I don't know too much more than that, but I do know people, my wife for example, who has had melatonin to assist sleep.
Okay.
So if your melatonin is increasing and your serotonin is decreasing, it stands to reason you're going to be more lethargic. And you're going to want to just relax, because we were speaking before we went on camera about you, and you actually, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, a bit late now, we're on camera, but kind of how it affects you. So
Yeah, well, I'm as soon as the clocks go back and I wake up and it's dark,
Yeah.
that's the first point of your consciousness, and for me it's a negative start. As soon as I open my eyes, my alarm goes off. My instant thing is, it's so dark, it can't possibly be time to wake up.
Yeah.
It can't possibly.
Yeah.
My alarm must have gone off. Then I look at it and I see that yes, it's still 6:15. It's just that it's pitch black.
Yeah.
So then I'm kind of slow to move. I'm somebody that trains early on. Thankfully, I go in the gym. But normally, in the summer months, I would just wake up and go to the gym.
Yeah.
And I don't have any issues waking up, and I wake up naturally. In the winter, I don't wake up naturally. It's always my alarm clock, and then it's dark, and it's just a bit of a slog.
How are you at getting up then? Because you might be able to help other people, because we're going to come on to a couple of top tips that will hopefully give people something to think about if they're struggling from it.
Yeah.
Is it just a strong mindset that makes you get up, or have you got anything that...
It's, again, when it's lighter and it's warmer, my body naturally wakes up at a certain time, and so I think you slowly come round. In the winter, it's my alarm that wakes me up, and then I have to roll around a bit. It's the only time I ever hit the snooze button.
Yeah.
And all I can think about is just get up and make a cup of tea.
Right.
Just get up and make a cup of tea. That's what propels me out of the sheets.
That's really, and whether you're intentionally doing that, that's one thing I would say, because this isn't going to be on my top 3 tips, but that's really brilliant. If you look at the big picture and be quite overwhelming, thinking, I need to get to that gym and do this thing, you're thinking step 1 is kind of get my arse up and get a brew.
That cup of tea.
Yeah, that's really good.
But
yeah.
I think I'm a bit like that with food and drink. I'm quite motivated by food and drink. I eat a lot, I love food, but again, in the winter months, I never crave salad. I would never crave the things that I eat generally, or when you're on holiday. On holiday, I just eat salad and fish and veg and drink fruit juice. In the winter months, I want carbs. I want sausage and mash, I want Yorkshire pudding, I want stodge, I want like...
It's like comfort food, yeah. And I think that's essentially what it is. One thing I want to get across is we're 2 people sat here. I personally also suffer, I hate that word. I'm susceptible to SADS disorder.
Yeah.
And the important thing, what I would say, is don't fight it.
Yeah, I was just thinking this.
There's a massive thing with a lot of the work I do in general, with mental health, with trying to be more positive. First port of call, be curious about how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Be curious about how you're feeling. Once you're curious about how you're feeling, you've got awareness. What we're not aware of controls us. So if we blindly just try to carry on doing what we're doing when it's sunny and we're feeling rubbish, what are the chances? We might need to make amendments. We can still do all what we want to do.
Yeah.
We just need to be aware of it. And that's really important. And when we're talking about this, there's no one rule for everyone. What you feel might be different to me. And
I suppose, for me, we don't have to cure it.
No.
We just have to be aware that this is quite common to feel this way, and maybe what things can I do lifestyle wise, or
absolutely
what do I do friendship wise, socially, to kind of manage it.
Brilliant.
So, because I suppose it could be, I'm somebody who's very kind of sociable and bright and bubbly, but I could see how you get to a point sometimes where you're like, oh, I'm not going to go to that event. I'm going to say no to that because I just want to be at home and I just want to have some tea and put a film on, and I don't want to be as sociable. But I suppose could that progress into...
Massively, and that's a really good point. There's 2 sides to this, and hopefully I don't sound like I'm contradicting myself, because the first side is, if you do want to withdraw a bit, that's natural. Don't fight it. If you would normally go for a night out in the summer, but you can't think of anything worse, and you want to put Home Alone 2 Lost in New York on and get a drink and get a load of popcorn, crisps, whatever, and watch that, is that such a bad thing? I don't think it is. What I would suggest is, if this goes into another day, into a week, into 2 weeks, that's what I want people to be aware of. There's nothing wrong with hibernating. Like you, I would class myself as a very, very social person, but I withdraw a bit, and I'm aware of that. So how do you manage that? Do you just accept it? Or do you think, well, it's helpful for me to keep doing things, but I might need to just reduce it a bit? That's the important thing. One thing I will say if anyone or you know anyone that is kind of suffering from this and it is at a level where they're not really coping very well, I would always seek professional help. Okay. That's really, really important. But I would say the majority of cases are situational and they're temporary. Yeah. And that's really important to remember. And I think there's comfort in that, because once you start to think, yeah, I feel a bit rubbish, but I know that it don't last forever. Yeah. I just need to manage this situation. And that's kind of where I'm at personally. Yeah. I know this will come for me.
And as far as people that it affects, does this affect all age range? Does it affect kids? Does it affect men the same as women?
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard anything in terms of the stats. It was just a number. Again, I don't know about you, but this is something within the last 10 years. I've never really heard of it much pre that. So again, when you get any stats tend to be from back there. Yeah. So it'd be interesting in the next couple of years to see what comes through. But yeah, I've not heard anything to suggest that it's more men over women, but I stand to be corrected.
I have noticed with our children that they also don't get up very easy in the winter. My youngest, Harrison, he's 5, and he's always sprang out of bed at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Whether it's a weekend or not, unfortunately. Yeah. But he's the kid that bounces out of bed and he's playing. Yeah. And that's normally why you wake up. But I'm having to wake him up every morning. Yeah. So I do think, I mean, it might be to do with the clocks going back, I suppose. But getting him out of bed to go to school has become a little bit harder in the darker months. But what I have done now is I've started to get him up a little bit earlier. Yeah. And just say to him that he can have 10-15 minutes rolling around in bed, because then you can slowly come round. That's what I need. Yeah. I'm not somebody who can spring out of bed. So what would we say to people? So if there's a takeaway from this?
Well, you've actually, I'll give you 3 that I thought about. There's so many different angles we can go for, but I want to keep it really basic. You've hinted at a really, really good one, which links into mine. I have a bit of a saying that I use with coaching clients anyway: give it 5 minutes. If you really don't want to do it, but you know you're going to feel better after, give it 5 minutes. Then, at the end of those 5 minutes, give yourself permission to stop. 99 times out of 100, we don't stop. So it's like saying, I need to get outside to use some fresh air, but I really don't want to. Right, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. I guarantee if you set a stopwatch for 5 minutes, you're not going to get to the end of the road and go, that's me, done now, I'm back home. It's kind of giving yourself that motivation to do that. And a good point you made about not just thinking about the gym. My first step is getting up and doing the coffee. That's a really good way of looking at it. Break it down into something manageable. Second one, give your body what it needs. I've mentioned the SADS lamp. Some people also, carbs. So Yorkshire pudding wasn't going to be on here. Vitamin D tablets is something people do. What can replicate what we're missing? Because on the limited research we've got, we think it's down to the lack of sunlight and what that does to our bodies. So do we need that serotonin to give us that lift? So vitamin D and a SADS lamp is something I would recommend for people to consider trying.
Even just multivitamin, because we're probably lacking in so many other things anyway, aren't we? Just maybe that conscious effort to acknowledge it and think, right, what can I do food-wise? What can I do exercise-wise? I've been making sure that I bring lunch and that I carry fruit and things in the car, because even though the sun's come up and I'm at work, I will crave kind of like a baguette, like a nice big chunky sandwich, and I want to be full. Whereas that's not the best thing for you if you're not massively active through the day. So I've been making sure that I bring a salad with me, and I really enjoy it. It's just that I have to make a conscious effort to not fall into that kind of winter behaviour.
That's true. It's again managing the situation for the results. So we've got, give it 5 minutes. If you don't want to do something, get out there, give it 5 minutes. Supplements, how can you give yourself the sunlight, vitamin D versus SADS lamp? And finally, talk. It's the most simple thing in the world. If you're not doing great, talk to people. If someone's gone within the shell, reach out to them. That's really, really important. In this day and age, even if you don't want to leave the house, there's a lot of things that are wrong, in my opinion, with modern technology and a toxic environment it creates. But it gives us FaceTime and Zoom and everything. We can see people, get in touch with them, talk to people. You don't necessarily have to talk about how you're feeling if you're not comfortable, but just having that human connection makes a massive difference. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and make sure we're still talking to people regularly. They're the 3 biggest things I would take away.
And if anybody wants to know more about what you do and your coaching, what do they do? Where do they go?
So LinkedIn, it'd be Steve Lenagh, and social media handles, The Curious Northerner. I'm on there, so I'm putting a lot of different topics, all around wellbeing, all about growing yourself and all about learning to like yourself a bit more.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.